and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Battle Report brought to you by the Legion Wargaming, and welcome back to the world of Pharon VI, the planet on which we witnessed the orbital assault of the Raven Guard 3rd Company smash the advance of the Ork Horde, intent upon breaking through to the world's fertile agri-fields. Although this eliminated the Orks' opportunity to conquer the planet, scattered bands of greenskins escaped into the highlands and valleys and continue to threaten Imperial forces with sudden, ferocious attacks. And of course, one such band, under the command of a particularly cunning Ork commando boss, succeeded in trapping a force of ravens at an isolated base and seizing control of their revered Thunderhawk gunship known as the Onyx Blade, ultimately resulting in its destruction. The shame of this has prompted the Raven Guard captain to swear not to leave this world until every greenskin has been hunted down and exterminated. And as silent, sable-clad kill teams hunt the Orks across the remote uplands, one such team has found their target at this abandoned outpost and prepares to strike. The battle today is a kill teams game, 200 points, Orks versus Raven Guard, and the mission is headhunt. Let's take a look at the kill teams. This 200-point Raven Guard kill team consists of 2 squads, each of 5 Marines. The first is a squad of 5 Stern Guard veterans led by this kill team's leader. It's veteran Sergeant Tyvian Knox. He has no upgrades, but he has been there, seen it and done it. He is a dirty fighter, giving his close combat attacks fleshbane. And there are 3 other specialists in this force. They are all members of his Stern Guard veteran squad. We have a battle brother with no upgrades, but he is a combat specialist. He has counter-attack. We have a battle brother with a combi melter. He is a guerrilla fighter. He has preferred enemy Orks. We have another battle brother with a combi melter. He is a weapon specialist. His combi melter is master crafted. And we do of course have one more veteran completing the squad. And the other squad is 5 scouts. They all have sniper rifles and camo cloaks. These are the Raven Guard. There are only 10 Marines. Let's see what they're up against. Let's take a look at the Orks. This 200-point Ork kill team consists of 3 mobs, the first of which is a mob of 10 shooter boys. They are led by a Nob with a power claw. He is this army's leader and he is a quick thinker. There is also one specialist in this mob. This boy with the horns is a weapon specialist. His shooter is master crafted. There is also a second mob of Orks. This time they are Storm Boys. There are 7 of them, and one of these boys is a specialist. He's a combat specialist. He has rage. And the final mob are the Gretchen. We have a runt herd. He's a specialist. He's a dirty fighter, giving his close combat attacks rending, and he is herding 12 Gretchen forwards. There are certainly a lot of Orks against only 10 Space Marines, but the Space Marines are used to these kind of odds. As we move into deployment. And the armies have deployed, with the Raven Guard deploying first and veteran Sergeant Knox leading his Stern Guard forwards. They are all in good cover behind this bunker. Sergeant Knox himself is here. He has his guerrilla fighter to his left and his weapon specialist to his right. We have his combat specialist here, and the other battle brother in the squad is in good cover behind these barricades. They are preparing to unleash a hail of specialist ammunition against the advancing Orks as they move across this base. And the Stern Guard have the fire support of 2 scouts. They have set up their sniper positions behind this wall, while the other 3 members of their squad have infiltrated into a great sniper's position in this tower. We have 2 scouts on the roof and 1 on the level just below. Meanwhile, the Orks are spilling forwards into the base. On their far right flank we have 4 Storm Boys, including their specialist. Then we have some of the shooter boys in the centre. The Grots are being herded forwards by their runt herd, who is behind this wall. And we have a couple more boys here. The Nob in position in this bunker, and another 3 Storm Boys on the far left flank. This mission is headhunt. Both of the leaders are worth 3 victory points. Each of the specialists are worth 1 victory point each. There is also First Blood, Linebreaker and Break the Enemy available. So This Ork, obviously, is not enough of a quick thinker as he has failed to seize the initiative. With the roll of a 1, we go into Raven Guard, turn 1. End of Raven Guard movement phase, turn 1, and judging that their bolters are already in range, Sergeant Knox has ordered his Stern Guard to hold position and begin preparations for their first volley, and of course the Scouts have also held position, no movement at all from the Ravens. They're hoping for a good first shooting phase. Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 1. End of Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 1, and the veteran sergeant ordered his Stern Guard veterans to load up and open fire with their specialist dragon fire bolts, and the Stern Guard immediately showed how deadly they are. The guerrilla specialist took out the first shooter boy. Sergeant Knox hit but failed to wound. The weapon specialist took out another shooter boy with his mastercrafted bolter, and this battle brother took out another. Only one member of the squad missed. That is 3 shooter boys down in the opening volley of the game. Meanwhile, the Orks have had a bit of luck as this shooter boy specialist was hit and wounded twice by these 2 scout snipers, but he made both cover saves with a pair of 5s. The Storm Boy specialist was not so lucky. He was targeted by the 3 scouts in the tower, and 1 round managed to get through and execute him with a headshot. The Raven Guard are very happy. They've taken out 4 Orks. They've also scored first blood, and they've already taken out 1 of the Ork specialists. Let's see what the Orks do going into Orks, turn 1. End of Orks movement phase, turn 1, and as expected the Orks have surged forward in the centre. All of the grots are charging across this central compound. They are supported by 3 shooter boys and the shooter boy specialist. Meanwhile, over on the right flank, the 3 remaining Storm Boys, having witnessed the death of their specialist, have jumped into cover behind this building. They are trying to flank the Ravens, it seems, and it is the same story on the Orks left flank as the Runt Herd, 2 shooter boys, the Knob, and these 3 Storm Boys are all moving forward. It looks like the Scouts' position is going to become untenable quite quickly in this game. Let's see what the Orks do in Ork shooting phase, turn 1. End of Ork shooting phase, turn 1, and on their right flank these 3 Storm Boys have run 5 inches around the corner of this building. They are creeping steadily towards the Ravens. They are hoping to trigger their rocket packs next turn and charge into the Stern Guard. In the centre, the Grots have run forward 6 inches. Looks like the Orks intend to use them to swarm all over the Space Marines and bog them down. Meanwhile, these 3 shooter boys, joined by their specialist, have taken out the first Space Marine with a volley of bullets from their shooters. The lead member of the Stern Guard squad has gone down despite having a 2+ cover save. 1 wound got through and the first Space Marine has fallen. Meanwhile, these 2 shooter boys unleashed a hail of bullets into this tower, but the 1 wound they caused was saved by the Scouts. 2+ cover save, and the Storm Boys, having used their rocket packs in the movement phase, they cannot charge. They open fire with their 3 sluggers, unsurprisingly achieving nothing. But this Knob clearly is a quick thinker. He has dived out of line of sight with a run move. The Runt Herd tried to do the same, but rolled a 1. He is stranded and looking quite vulnerable. But the Orks have taken out a Space Marine at least, and they are closing in on the Raven Guard's positions. Let's see how the Raven Guard respond. Raven Guard, turn 2. End of Raven Guard movement phase, turn 2, and hearing the approach of the Storm Boys, 2 of the Stern Guard, one of whom is Sergeant Knox, have moved to deal with them. 1 battle brother, he's the guerrilla. He has preferred enemy Orks. He has run out and taken cover in the trees. Sergeant Knox himself is advancing along the edge of the base. They are hoping to cut down these Storm Boys, and the Sergeant has ordered the 2 remaining Stern Guard in the centre to start cutting down the approaching Gretchen. The Raven Guard know that if they break these Orks, their low leadership will see a lot of them flee. Meanwhile, all of the Scouts have once again held position. They are continuing to follow their orders. They are targeting the Ork specialists to take them out. Let's see what the Ravens can achieve in their second shooting phase. End of Raven Guard shooting phase, turn 2, and it has been a disappointing performance from the Stern Guard veterans this phase. Sergeant Knox missed with both of his Hellfire rounds when he targeted the lead Storm Boy, but the Ork was taken out by the single hit that this battle brother managed with his his own Hellfire round. It was even more disappointing from these two battle brothers. They only managed a single hit with their rapid fire Dragonfire bolts against the Gretchen, and that did not wound. That is no casualties caused this phase by them, but the scouts have done very well. Both of these snipers targeted the shooter boy specialist, and he is no more, and these three in the tower managed to take out the runt herd as well. The two on the roof missed, but the sergeant on the lower level managed to plug him right between the eyes. That is all three Orc specialists down. The Ravens are doing very well in terms of victory points, but that was a very poor performance from the Stern Guard this turn. With no assaults, we go into Orks turn 2. End of Orks movement phase turn 2, and it looks like the green tide is about to hit home against the thin line of sable armour as these two Storm Boys have leapt forwards. They are looking to charge this battle brother and the veteran sergeant in the centre. The lucky Grots have spilled forward again. Their blasters may be feeble, but that is a lot of shots that these Stern Guard will have to face, and there are of course three shooter boys following up in the wake of the Gretchen who will be adding their fire as well. But it is the scouts in the tower that have the most to worry about as triggering their rocket packs. These three Storm Boys have leapt skywards. They have landed on the battlements. Looks like these scouts are going to face an assault. Meanwhile, the Knob and the last two shooter boys are moving forwards. They're hoping that the Storm Boys take out these scouts. That will keep them safe behind this large building. Let's see what the Orcs can do. Orc shooting phase turn 2. End of Orc shooting phase turn 2, and neither of these Storm Boys managed to do anything with their sluggers against this battle brother and the veteran sergeant. But in the centre, both of these Stern Guard have gone down. They managed to save the wounds inflicted by the shooter boys, but then the Grots opened fire with an incredibly accurate hail from their crude blasters, and both Stern Guard went down. They are both specialists. That is 2 victory points for the Orcs. Fortunately, these scouts were not harmed by the volley of shooter fire from the Knob and the 2 remaining shooter boys, or the 3 slugger shots from the Storm Boys. But they're going to have to face an assault as we go into Orcs assault phase turn 2. End of Orcs assault phase turn 2, and the Storm Boys plan over this side of the base did not work out very well for them, as this battle brother executed the first Storm Boy with a volley of overwatching Hellfire rounds. Meanwhile, Sergeant Knox allowed the Orc to land in front of him before ramming his Gladius into his chest. These two have done very well this phase. The Storm Boys in the tower did better. Both Orcs on the roof made their charges, and they have butchered 2 of the Raven Guard scouts, but the Orc on the level below charging into the sergeant ended up being shot in the face by the Raven Guard's bolt pistol. Still, the Ravens have taken a lot of casualties. This battle is very, very close. Let's see what the Raven Guard do going into their 3rd turn. End of Raven Guard movement phase turn 3, and Sergeant Knox and his surviving guerrilla fighter Stern Guard veteran have moved. They're taking cover, and they intend to unleash a volley of fire on the Gretchen from their positions at the edge of these bunkers. Meanwhile, these 2 snipers have begun to move. They have unholstered their bolt pistols. They're going to give fire against the Gretchen, but they are nevertheless moving back into more cover. And the only other surviving Raven Guard is the Scout Sergeant. He hears the crude Orc laughter coming from the top of the tower. He has unholstered his bolt pistol. He's going to give fire up towards the Orcs and then potentially charge. The Ravens are down to half strength, 1 more casualty and they will be broken. Let's see how much damage they can inflict on the Orcs first. Raven Guard shooting phase turn 3. End of Raven Guard shooting phase turn 3, and both the veteran sergeant and his last surviving Stern Guard veteran leaned out around the corner of these buildings and each blew a Gretchen 2 pieces, and these 2 scouts opening fire with their bolt pistols managed to take out another, but the Scout Sergeant didn't manage to do anything with his bolt pistol. He is going to charge in Raven Guard assault phase turn 3. End of Raven Guard assault phase turn 3, and as the Scout Sergeant scaled the ladder, a slugger round pinged harmlessly from his armour. He popped out through the hatch and shot one of the Storm Boys with his bolt pistol again. He is now facing off against the last Storm Boy as the rest of the battle rages far below. That brings Raven Guard turn 3 to a close. The Orks have taken 14 casualties, 2 more and they will be broken. Both sides are doing well. It's too close to call as we go into Orks turn 3. End of Orks movement phase turn 3, and these shooter boys recognise a boss when they see one. They are moving towards veteran Sergeant Knox, and they have bellowed at the Gretchen to move in this direction as well. These last 2 Stern Guard have a big fight on their hands. Meanwhile, this Storm Boy of course refuses to back away from this Space Marine. They are going to finish their duel. Meanwhile, the Knob is moving forwards. He is still out of line of sight behind this building, and looks like he is moving to achieve line breaker. He's ordered his last 2 shooter boys to move through this doorway and perhaps try and take out the last Space Marines behind this wall. The Orks could pull off a win this turn. Let's see how they do. Ork shooting phase turn 3. End of Ork shooting phase turn 3, and the Orks are extremely disappointed with the result. All of the Grots only managed to inflict a single wound on Sergeant Knox. He made his armour save, and the shooter boys managed to inflict another 2, and again the Raven Guard made both of his 3+ saves. That is very, very disappointing for the Orks. These 2 shooter boys opened fire on the scouts but couldn't get a single hit, and the Storm Boy failed to hit this Raven Guard with his slugger as well. The Knob decided to hold position. He is close enough to achieve line breaker without exposing himself just yet. Let's see who wins this duel. Orks assault phase turn 3. End of Orks assault phase turn 3, and this Storm Boy ploughed into the scout sergeant, but unfortunately for the Orks, none of his attacks could inflict a wound on the Space Marine. In return, the Space Marine managed 2 hits on the Ork, but again no wounds were inflicted. They remain locked. Meanwhile, in a very surprising move, the Grots all tried to charge. The Raven Guard veteran Sergeant 4 made it in, and Sergeant Knox contemptuously dispatched the first 2 with his Gladius. The other 2 could do no damage to the veteran Space Marine, and that has proven to be an unwise decision from the Orks, as those 2 casualties have broken the Ork army. Now the Orks will have to take leadership tests for each of their models at the start of their movement phase, or they will flee the battle. That has really changed the course of this game. Let's see what the Raven Guard can do in their 4th turn. End of Raven Guard movement phase turn 4, and trusting that his veteran sergeant can dispatch these 2 Gretchen, and that the rest of these Gretchen may well flee the battle, this Stern Guard veteran guerrilla fighter has moved forward. He wants to start taking out Orks with his bolter and of course preferred enemy. These 2 scouts have held position. There are plenty of Orks advancing on them for their sniper rifles to deal with, and of course their sergeant remains locked in assault as we go into Raven Guard shooting phase turn 4. End of a very quick Raven Guard shooting phase turn 4. Neither of these scouts managed to hit these Orks with their sniper rifles, but this Stern Guard veteran managed to take one out with 2 Hellfire rounds. We have a couple of assaults to resolve in Raven Guard assault phase turn 4. End of Raven Guard assault phase turn 4, and the scout sergeant once again got 2 hits on this Storm Boy, but neither wounded, and he has been felled by a blow from the Orks' crude axe that has broken this Raven Guard force. Both sides are now broken. Meanwhile, veteran Sergeant Knox dispatched another Gretchen and then had a very nervous moment as this Gretchen managed to inflict a wound on him, but fortunately he made his power armour save, and that brings Raven Guard turn 4 to a close. The battle is still very close. It could still go either way. Orks turn 4. Start of Orks turn 4, and with their army broken, they had a lot of break tests to make, and it has been a disaster for the greenskin, starting with their Knob deciding to flee the battle, although the Ravens are annoyed they will not be able to get 3 points for killing him now. But the sight of their leader scarpering for the horizon obviously did not go down well with the rest of the greenskins, as the 2 orcs on the ground floor of this building have fled. One of the 2 orcs in the centre has fled. There is only one left, and all of the Gretchen, including the one that was in combat with Veteran Sergeant Knox. There are in fact only 2 orcs left, the Storm Boy and this Shooter Boy. They are going for glory in the name of Gork and Mork. Orcs movement phase, turn 4. End of Orc movement phase, turn 4, and both of the surviving orcs are moving towards the Raven Guard Veteran Sergeant. This Storm Boy has performed a huge leap from the top of this tower, and the last Shooter Boy is moving in this direction as well. They're going to open fire and probably follow it up with a charge. Orcs shooting phase, turn 4. End of Orcs shooting phase, turn 4, and the Storm Boy with his slugger and the Shooter Boy with his shooter did not manage a single hit on the Raven Guard Veteran Sergeant. Let's see if they can charge in and finish him the Orky way. Orcs assault phase, turn 4. End of Orcs assault phase, turn 4, and Veteran Sergeant Knox has put on an incredible display of combat prowess. As the 2 orcs charged, he shot down the Shooter Boy with a Hellfire round before drawing his Gladius and decapitating the Storm Boy with a backhanded swing. And as the 2 greenskin corpses collapse to the ground, there are no orcs left on the battlefield. In terms of victory points, the Orcs managed to take out 2 of the Raven Guard specialists. That's 2 points, and they also managed to break the Raven Guard kill team. That is another one. The Orcs have 3. The Raven Guard, they managed to take out all 3 of the Orc specialists, and they managed to achieve first blood, and they have also broken the Orc force. They have 5. The final score is 5 points to the Ravens, 3 points to the Orcs. It is a victory for the Raven Guard kill team, although the Veteran Sergeant is very unhappy that the Orc leader has fled and escaped vengeance. This game was very close. The Orcs made a difficult decision to charge the Gretchen into the Veteran Sergeant. That is what broke their army and ultimately cost them the game, but they only needed to inflict a single wound to take out the Raven Guard leader. It could have gone very differently. This has been incredibly fun. Like most kill teams games, they are quick, they are very brutal, and they are a great laugh to play. Thanks very much for watching. Please subscribe to our channel, and we will keep producing as many Warhammer 40,000 battle reports as we can. See ya.